Hi everyone, Miss Debbie here. Welcome, boys and girls, to bedtime stories, or let's just say dark night stories. Um, we we like to listen to stories, but especially before we go to sleep, and it might help us have some fun dreams. I had a little girl in my Mother Goose group story time the other day, and as soon as I began, I sang some songs and told the story. She promptly fell asleep. So it's working. Whatever I'm doing, it's working. This is a book that could be appropriate for Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving. Thank You, Omu by Oge Mora. So, Omu in the Nigerian language means grandmother. Grandmother. Do you have a grandmother that you would like to thank for all her special rituals and food she makes and love that she gives? Thank you, Omu. Published by Little Brown and Company. And here is a beautiful cityscape. You can see the buildings, and there's a, a food vendor on the street, a taxi driver, um, people in their apartments. I love to look in windows in the city, especially as it gets dark and the lights come on in the apartments, because I just like to peek into other people's lives. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Omu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. What a delicious stew, Omu said. Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I ever had. And here's white haired Omu and tasting her stew. What do you think a red stew is made out of? What could be red vegetables like tomatoes, um, red meat, maybe? Red lentils, that's what I have in my refrigerator. I have a red lentil and red tomato stew. With that, Omo put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until knock, knock, someone was at the door. Here she is reading her book, and the stew is wafting its beautiful smells over the city. When Omu opened the door, she saw a little boy. Little boy, Omu exclaimed, what brings you to my home? I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell, the little boy replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Stew, he sighed. That sure sounds yummy. Omu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. Would you like some? The little boy nodded. And so Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Omu, the little boy said, and went on his way. With that, Omu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until knock, knock. Someone was at the door. And there's the smell. Oh, wafting down the street. Oh, there's the little boy holding up his bowl, and the smell is wafting as well. When Omu opened the door this time, she saw a police officer. "Ms. Police Officer," Omu exclaimed, "what brings you to my home?" "Well, I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell," Ms. Police Officer replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." "Ah, stew," she said, and her mouth watered. "That sounds mighty tasty." And here's the police officer at the door. Omo thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. "Would you like some?" The police officer nodded. Once again, Omo spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Omu," the officer said, and went on her way. And so for the second time, Omu closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until knock, knock, knock. Again, someone was at Omu's door. Look, the smell is wafting up from the police officer's bowl and also from her apartment. This time, when she opened the door, she saw a hot dog vendor. "Mr. Hot Dog Vendor," Omu exclaimed, "what brings you to my home?" "Well, I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell," Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." "Ooh, stew." The vendor licked his lips. "That sounds quite delectable." And here he is at her door. And she's holding the book. So Omu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Omu," the hot dog vendor said, and he went on his way. Don't you love these pictures? I just love the colors. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Omu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker, and even the mayor stopped by. And each time they knocked, Omu shared. Soon the sky darkened, the street lights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Omu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Omu sniffled. "There goes the best dinner I ever had." Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot until knock, 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 knock. Who could that be, Omu wondered. Here she is, sad and blue. When she opened the door, she saw the little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was at her door. "I'm sorry, everyone," Omu sighed. "My thick red stew is all gone. I have nothing left to share." The little boy tugged at Omu's sleeve. "Don't worry, Omu. We are not here to ask. We are here to give." The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Omu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Omu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Omu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. Well, that is really nice, like a Thanksgiving when everyone brings food over or a Friendsgiving. The dinner was the best she ever had. And inside the red envelope was a thank you note, and it said, "Thank you, Omu." The end. So come and borrow this book. Thank you, Omu. You can ask us for it if you can't find it. We'll find it for you. This next story is one of my favorites. It's called Little Bunny Foo Foo. Have you ever heard the song? It's pretty traditional, and it's a lot of fun. And it's told and sung by the Good Fairy. There's the Good Fairy, and there's Little Bunny Foo Foo. And it's illustrated by Paul Brett Johnson. I got to get my singing voice for this story. So, here's Little Bunny Foo Foo. And here's the Good Fairy looking over the fence. This is published by Scholastic Press. He's making mud pies. Did you ever make mud pies or sandbox pies? I'll let you in on a little secret. Good fairies do not like tomfoolery. That's why I had to keep an eye on Little Bunny Foo Foo when he whipped up a batch of yucky mucky mud pies and headed for the forest. Do you think he was up to something nice? Ha! He's got a pie in the ready-to-throw position. There's the Meesy mice. Little Bunny Foo Foo hopping through the forest, scooping up the Meesy mice and bopping them on the head. To be fair, Little Bunny Foo Foo was not a bad bunny, not really, but he was very naughty. So I said, "Little Bunny Foo Foo, I don't want to see you scooping up the Meesy mice and bopping them on the head. I'll give you 3 chances, and if you don't behave, I'll turn you into a goon." I thought that would be the end of that. But was it? Little Bunny Foo Foo hopping through the forest, scooping up the woodchucks and bopping them on the head with mud pies. Some bunnies just won't listen. So I said, "Little Bunny Foo Foo, I don't want to see you scooping up the woodchucks and bopping them on the head. Now you've got 2 more chances, and if you don't behave, I'll turn you into a goon. It's not polite to go around bopping folks." Do you think he listened? Little Bunny Foo Foo hopping through the forest, scooping up the foxes and popping them on the head. By now I was getting more than a tad cross, so I said, "Little Bunny Foo Foo, I don't want to see you scooping up the foxes and popping them on the head. You've got 1 last chance, and if you don't behave, I'll turn you into a goon. I mean it. This head bopping will not, I repeat, will not do." Do you think he behaved? Little Bunny Foo Foo hopping through the forest, scooping up the grizzly bears and bopping them on the head. You know, a good fairy can only take so much. So I said, little bunny foo-foo, I don't want to see you scooping up the grizzly bears and bopping them on the head. I gave you 3 chances and you didn't behave. So now I'm going to turn you into a goon. And look at all that magic coming out of her magic wand. Looks like a fire-breathing dragon. And it hits little bunny foo-foo. Uh-oh. Ah! Not looking too good. And like they say, hair today, goon tomorrow. So she turned him into a goon. It was like a kind of a funny clown. So the the expression is here today, gone tomorrow. Like if you have, say you have a piece of birthday cake, it's here today, but it's gone tomorrow. But another name for a bunny is hare. So he was a hare today, but since he was so bad, he was a goon tomorrow. Anyway, that's how the traditional story is told. Little bunny foo-foo, I don't want to see you scooping up the measly mice and popping them on the head. I love that. I love that so much. I think we have time for another story. In our dark night stories, our bedtime stories, little bit of Thanksgiving or friendsgiving stories. This is kind of a funny book, While You're Asleep by Emily Kastner. But I particularly love, again, the colorful illustrations in this book. I mean, look at the end papers. Gosh, it looks like my bed sheets, right? They used to have flowers on them, when you go to Lily White's party. Let's see, we have to say who this is published by. Very important to give the publisher. Simon & Schuster Books for young readers. The earth slowly spins, light fades away. You're ready for sleep at the end of the day. As our cute bunnies cozy in bed, baby deer yawns and lays down his head. Songbirds are quiet, huddled in nests. Sweet little puppies find places to rest. Butterflies doze on and on without break. The raccoon, huh? That raccoon's awake. Did you know raccoons are nocturnal? They sleep in the day and wake up at night. Look at that beautiful moon. Dusk sweeps in, the moon shines bright. It's time to sleep for all. Good night. Except for the raccoon, who is back with friends, and they found an entire trash bin dinner. I'm pretty sure they just woke up, so I guess it's more of a trash bin breakfast. Do you live where raccoons get into the trash bins? They're pretty noisy, all right, and they strew everything all over the place. Well, at least everyone else is asleep. Squirrels snooze in trees once their chatter has ceased. Bees stop their buzzing. Hives sway in the breeze. Tender is the night. Just look at this bear, her delicious dreams swirling with suave fare. Oh dear, what's peeking out behind the rock? Another nocturnal animal. A skunk. Did you know a skunk could tiptoe? She's tiptoeing her way to bed. I'm sure of it. A chorus of crickets cue curious dreams. The lizard down there would agree, so it seems. That's kind of a tongue twister. A chorus of crickets cue curious dreams. There's no crickets now. They've all gone away for the winter. While fireflies flicker and elephants nap, baby gorilla nods off in her mama's lap. A chorus of crickets? Fireflies flickering? They're all awake too? Oh, I know what's happening. They're helping the rest of the animals fall asleep first. Then they'll go to bed. Not to worry, we're back on track. Meerkats slumber in piles underground. A hush fills the air and stillness abounds. The trout. I can't think of a single rhyme. Are these fish asleep? They must be, but the whole eyes wide open thing is very confusing. Maybe if I whisper, they will close their eyes? Shh, fish don't close their eyes. Clearly, sleep is a complicated thing. The trout. Oh, forget it. The trout is making me very uncomfortable. Moving on to something amusing, snoozing, and sleep-inducing. Wow. Of course, the bats are awake. They're nocturnal too. Should we go back to those sleeping bunnies? This is a lullaby book. No. Let's just close our eyes for a moment. Close them. I was told this is a bedtime book with sleeping animals. I forgot about the nocturnal ones. Oh, I don't know about you, but I'm quite tired. Oh, I'm falling asleep. I really am falling asleep. The bats soar and sing, flapping delicate wings with top hats and boas and nice fancy things. They're dressed up for a dancing party. Sea otters hunt late while others create, and the stars guide the wakeful dung beetle straight. All of these are night animals. There's the dung beetle. Do you know what dung is? Here's the dung beetle. They like to eat dung. Do you know what dung is? Well, you'll have to find out. Ask somebody. Dung. Fox prepares the feast. The cake pans are greased, and the aardvark is leading everyone east. Oh, food. Food always makes a party. Good food. This happens every night while the world's dreaming deep. Close your eyes, my dear, and don't say a peep. Wait. Do moles and badgers dance the tango in the moonlight? Can a beaver play a banjo? Could an opossum paint a portrait? Possibly. Well, how do you know that's not true? You're asleep. Aren't you? You're in Lily White's party. You're asleep. The end. Well, thank you. I hope those stories fit very well for you, and stay tuned for the next edition of Bedtime Stories with me, Miss Debbie. Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.